Okay, now I can record. This is February 8th. It's our second Zoom meeting. It will be recorded, so you can refer back to it later, but we will talk a little bit in class about small group and large group instruction. I know that you had to dive into the TEKS this week, and I told you I was going to show you how those worked. And I didn't do that before I had you dive into the TEKS, but everybody did really well finding something. The only thing that I noticed with some of yours is I asked for a content area TEK, and usually, I mean, just in my brain, when I say content area TEK, I think of math, science, reading, and math, science, reading, and social studies. So maybe I should have said core content for that. So most of you will be teaching one of those 4 core content areas, unless you're going to do PE, of course, and then that would be your main focus. But what we're going to focus on for this class is really the 4 main core content areas, and how we can bring those other areas like art and drama and physical education into our core content areas to make them a little more interesting. Okay, because we know that kids learn better with hands-on and active learning with the drama and the art and the PE. So just kind of going forward with creating this lesson that we're going to create, just know that your main focus will be a content area, and then you're going to bring in other TEKs or other activities to support that content area. Okay. Any questions about the assignment that we had last week? Okay. So moving forward, you will be working on a lesson with a book. So later on in just a little bit, we're going to talk about your book that you chose. I have some examples here that I brought, and you're just going to tell me the title of the book that you chose if you have it, just so I can see what kind of the direction everybody's going on. If you don't have the physical book, that's fine. I just happen to have way too many books in my tubs. Okay. So with reading chapter 3 and chapter 4, they really tried to lay out what the best route would be to teach different activities, whether it's in a small group or in a large group. So let's kind of just brainstorm here. Hopefully we read, and you can tell me I'm going to share my screen. You can tell me some ideas that you had. What is that? Bing. Hold on. Some ideas that you had with, here we go, small and large group activities, or ideas that they had in the book. So for example, chapter 3 was mainly small group, chapter 4 was mainly large group. What would be appropriate to do in a small group setting? Come off mute, or let's see, I didn't put the chat up there. What did they talk about that would be appropriate for small group and large group? I see Carolyn's looking at her book. Good. Okay. For example, if I were going to do a science experiment, how would I start that science experiment? In a small group or in a large group? You can just show me small or large if you're too shy to come off mute.
Would it be a large group? Excuse me.
Somebody's in the chat. Large. Okay, very good. Because if I'm doing a science experiment, what am I having to start with? I mean, do I just throw them into all the stuff and say, hey, here's your water and food coloring and go at it?
No, you
I
have
have
to show them the materials and the procedure on how you want them to do things.
Very good. Procedures, that was the key word I was looking for. So in a large group, you would really go over procedures, rules, something that everyone needs to hear. So a large group might be procedures. It might be a story for the whole group. But if I'm doing a story for the whole group, what do I need to remember? I don't have an example. Can it be a little book like this?
No.
No. I've been in classrooms and I've seen teachers use little tiny books and the kids in the back are going, ah. What kind of a book should you use, or how should you present a story with a large group?
You should try to get those large books, or like there's even Parmeter boards that some classes have. You can show it on the Parmeter board.
A video or a document camera, right?
Yes.
Okay. If I'm doing a story in a small group, I can still do a story in a small group, but it can be a small book. And it might be something that's on that particular group's level. So it might be a level book. A big book, kids can really understand the reading level. Kids can understand a reading level 2 or 3 grades above what they can read. So you can present a book, a story to the class at a reading level over their particular reading level. But a story in a small group, you'd want to be at their reading level so that they can read it for you. So something else that you would have to do in a small group. Am I going to give a class test in a small group? Probably not, right? What might I do in a small group if I had 2 or 3 kids?
Maybe ask questions.
Okay, so I could be a little more pointed, asking questions with the whole group, with everybody expected to participate. The participation is high in a small group and participation is low usually in a large group. You have to give them ways to communicate, maybe their thumbs up or thumbs down, or showing their whiteboard. They can't talk as much. So small group, if we're doing a math activity, we might want to have manipulatives in a small group because they're easier to control. If you're going to, in a large group, have manipulatives, you might want to just demonstrate, because everyone, 10, 15 kids in the class are going to be just really distracting with a bunch of manipulatives. Okay. If I look at chapter 4 with large group, oh, I'm running out of room. games can be in a large group. So if you're playing Kahoot, or you're playing a racing game, or you're having bingo or something like that, you can do games in a large group. If you want everyone to participate and everyone to have a turn in a small group, it's a little bit easier, but sometimes you're putting them on the spot. Some kids like to disappear in the large group. All right. So when you look at your, let's see, anything else for a small group? Sometimes an experiment is good in a small group. If like it's a dangerous, not dangerous, but a little more, you have to supervise a little bit more, is better in a small group. Maybe an art activity might be a little bit better in a small group, to just, if you just have a certain amount of materials also, because when you're looking at a small group, you can get with the child and be a little bit closer with them. All right. Can think of a lot more small group. Show and tell could be in a large group where they have to stand up and talk about what they're doing, but it could also be in a small group, maybe for ESL learners or kids that are shy. So it really depends a lot with your the group that you have in your class. So we're going to work through, whoops. We're going to work through the lesson that you are going to start to develop with your piece of literature. And I'm going to post this template for you on Blackboard so that it's just basically taken from the syllabus. And you're going to have turn this in by the end of the week, and it'll be a rough draft. You're not going to get penalized if you're totally off track. I just need to give you some feedback to make sure that you've got the right idea going. So my book that I chose, I'm going to start off with that. How do I get? I love all of these books, so it's really hard to choose. I brought like all 3 of them in from the garage. But this is one of my favorites, Papa Get the Moon for Me. It's pretty obvious what the topic would be on this, right? What content area? Science? Joseph?
I was gonna say, yeah, science. When you said
Science.
content area, I didn't know what you were asking. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a content area, science, social studies, reading, or math. So pretty easy to say that the content area would be science. So boys and girls, it's time for science. This is what we're going to do. And then you bring out a book and they're like, wait a minute, it's science. We're reading a book? Yes, we're reading a book. So this book actually talks about a dad, well, a little kid wants the moon, which is not real, right? But it has some good points in it about the phases of the moon. So I might read this book. And one of the cool things about this book is you can open it up and it gets really big to show the entire moon. So it does have a lot of realistic features to it. And it shows the Papa actually getting the little tiny moon, and she's playing with it, and then it disappears. We know that the moon doesn't really disappear, so we can take that into the science realm and talk about some different techniques and some different objectives with this particular book. So before we go on, I want you to, we're going to take turns telling me what your book is if you have it already. So we can make sure that everyone has their content area on point, on focus. Okay. I'm just going to go in order the way I have it on the screen. Carolyn,
Mine
no
is,
book? Oh, I love that. What's it about?
it's about this girl. She wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And then all her friends want to be a teacher also, but that's pretty good. I've been reading it for a while. That's a pretty
So,
good book.
What content area do you think you could do with that?
I'm probably gonna say maybe in a classroom.
The content like social studies,
I think it's like social studies or math.
community helpers, or math,
Yes.
something like that.
Mhm.
Good, good. It could be reading, sequencing too.
Yes.
Also, Shayla, do you have a book yet?
Yeah, I have red leaf, yellow leaf.
I love red leaf, yellow leaf. I have that one. Okay. What's your content area?
I was thinking science and maybe some of like art can be incorporated into the content area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it talks about the season change and like the inside of the book is very like colorful
Beautiful.
with watercolors and stuff like that.
So Carolyn, that brought to mind maybe with you that you could do an art project where the kids decorate their own purse
Okay.
with that. And you know, what would they put in their purse, or where would they take their purse?
Yeah.
Ashley, what about you?
For me, I have The Color of Us by Karen Katz. And I would probably, for my content area, I would probably use it as maybe social studies. It's definitely multicultural. You know, it talks about like our skin colors and
Perfect.
this is a book I read probably like a month ago for our character value. We are
Perfect.
different and the same. Yeah.
So character education and social studies, where people come from, different, you know, areas of the world. Great, great. And just getting along too, bring the social emotional skills in there. Joseph?
Sorry, I had to plug up my laptop, but the book I had was I don't have a copy of the book, but
That's
I read
okay.
it, called Grumpy Monkey.
Grumpy Monkey? Okay.
So it's the main character is Chimpanzee. He's a chimpanzee, and he's having a pretty grumpy day. He has a gorilla friend whose name is Norman, and Norman tries to like cheer him up and make him happy. And they kind of like walking through the day, seeing all the other animals and stuff, the snakes, the giraffe, the alligators, and but nobody could cheer up Grumpy Monkey, and they were all trying to like do things that like give him their techniques that make them happy.
To cheer up. Okay, so feelings, emotions, it could be social studies with that. What else? What were you thinking? Oh, you went on mute. Can't hear you.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the whole day he was grumpy. All his friends tried to cheer him up. It didn't work. He ended the day grumpy. He said it was a good day to be grumpy. But he he ended up, just finishing the day in the grumpy mood, but hoping and looking forward to getting better. I mean, that content area, I would say science, maybe the small children science.
Yeah.
All the different animals that was in it.
Definitely. Okay. Mark? Oh, were you going to say another one, Joseph?
No.
Okay. Mark, do you have a book yet?
Yeah, Mondays by Jill&Chris.
What?
On my phone, so you might not be able to see.
Oh, Mondays. Oh, okay. Okay.
So basically, it's a boy and his father getting ready for to start their day. So it starts off with him looking for, well, the kid looking for his backpack and his dad trying to help him. Then when they come out the house, the dad leaves the key, so they have to go back to the key. So basically, it's about getting to the routine of trying to get the day started.
Okay. What
What is-
content area are you thinking?
English literature, reading.
Okay. Just literature, reading, sequencing of a story. Good. Jessica? Oh, sorry. I cut you off, Mark.
Oh, wow, I was in the head. Sight words in the book is good for the kids to study.
Okay. Jessica?
Okay, the book I chose is A Stroll Through the Seasons.
Okay.
I don't know if you could see it.
Oh, yeah, that's sweet.
And I was thinking about science, having them like think about what they see in each season, and maybe have like a piece of paper and them draw like each season, like what they see.
Okay.
Or even writing, I can have them write a short sentence like my favorite season is, and you know.
Yeah, Mark, with yours too, that would be good. Have them do a writing lesson with that. On Monday, I do this. On Tuesday, I do that. Yeah. Patty?
Okay, my book is The Love Behind the Mask.
You showed me that one. Yeah, I love it.
I wasn't sure if it was a good book, but I think it has a good learning lesson. It just helps the kids understand why they wear a mask and what's the reason behind that. And I like when the writer said, when we wear a mask, we tell everyone we care about them and their loved ones.
Oh, that's sweet.
A way to teach them why we use in the mask in these days.
Okay. So what content area?
It will be good for reading, and kids can tell us, and writing, tell us how they feel about it, or maybe for science as well, because this book gives a little bit of the
germs
ideas of how to take care of each other.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's great.
Like what grandma is telling the kids what they need to do, wash their hands, clean and keep a distance. So I think it's a pretty cute book.
Okay, Chantel?
My book is Here We Are.
Oh.
Basically it's I guess it's in the eyes of a parent talking to their child, but they're giving them facts about Earth and and animals on Earth and people on Earth, and so my content area would be science.
Okay, lots of things you can do with that. Geography, social studies, science, definitely. Yeah, Jennifer?
I chose The Dot by Peter H. Reynolds. That one, it's really pretty. It has like very, very many colors, and it's kind of about like teachers like inspiring their students. So I think the content area, it's more so like art, but I'm not sure if there's any other subject, maybe math, like counting.
Counting, maybe just writing too. Write, that's a really good book. If y'all haven't read that, The Dot is wonderful. Yeah, writing, feelings, you can bring that content in there. Let's see, Ulysses.
I have the Curious George and the Firefighters.
Yay!
I was having a hard time finding what I could do, and then I walked into the bookstore and I saw like a whole bunch of Curious George's books. It's basically like him going to the fire station for a field trip, and then he gets like, with his curiosity, gets stuck just saving pizza place from their fire. So I think it's
okay.
I think it's helpful, and like I would use it like reading, I guess, to show kids like what the firefighters do in like their day-to-day lives, kind of a thing. I was thinking maybe for like an activity they can do like a show and tell as to like what their parents do. Maybe there's a child who has a firefighter as a mom or dad or nurse, teacher. That way there's like
Mhm.
other job titles of like, and give a little bit of like what they do on their day-to-day life as well.
Good. Social studies, community helpers, even social studies, like different roles in the community, things that you can do. Let's see, Ashley, are you there?
I already went.
Oh, you did. Okay. Who has not gone? Karen, did you go?
No, I haven't.
Do you have a book?
Yes. It's the very hungry caterpillar.
Perfect. Classic.
I love it. That's my favorite book.
Love it. Oh my gosh, so many things you can do with that. What do you think you're going to do?
I think I'm gonna go with science because it starts like with the egg and then it goes into the stage and the butterfly. And
Okay.
then maybe math because it's like on the first day he ate like I forgot what fruit it was, but like an apple, and then the second day he ate like 2 pears, and
Mhm.
it just keeps going through the numbers and it'll go back
Good.
to start over. Yeah.
Jacqueline, have you gone?
No, but I think I'm gonna do A Bad Case of Stripes by David Shannon.
Yes. I love that book. Okay. So I love all the books. I love Bad Case of Stripes. That's hysterical. Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna do like a writing lesson plan with this, like a beginning, middle, end problem solution type of activity.
Perfect. That's a great teak, and that's also a good star objective that you can pull from too. Patty, have you gone yet? You did go. Okay. Yeah.
I haven't gone.
Alexis. Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna do the Pigeon Needs a Bath.
Pigeon Needs a Bath. Is that a Mo Willems book?
Yes.
Yes. He's good. Kids love Mo Willems.
Yeah, I was thinking about talking about like science with it and how we can like stay healthy and of course clean.
Okay. Okay. If you're not familiar, guys, with Mo Willems books, they're so simple, and you look at them and you think, God, how would kids like this? It's like so boring and so simple, but kids eat them up. They are so cute and so funny. Who else has not gone? Okay. Sounds like y'all are on point and focused and on the right track. So let's get back to what I have for my book, and I'll walk you through how we can, here we go, create our lesson. Okay. Where did it go? I have no idea where it went. Oh, it's over here. Okay. Can y'all see this? Okay, so I did, like I said, I chose Papa Get the Moon for me. It's, I chose 3rd grade because once I started going into the teaks, I found that Phases of the Moon, this is my teak that I found for 3rd grade. When I taught kindergarten, we always did Phases of the Moon, but apparently that's not a kindergarten teak anymore, maybe. So I found it in 3rd grade, represent the natural world using models such as volcanoes, sun, earth, moon systems. And I found it by going to, oh, you see my idea. I found it by going to the teaks. Science, and you can just do a search, TEA, state Texas Gov, teaks, and these are science. When you look at the teaks, there's always an introduction, and it just, this number 1 right here kind of tells you a general overview. general overview under A. Your teaks are going to be under the B, knowledge and skills. These right here, Ulysses?
I just wanted to let you know, we can't see your screen. All we can see is your screensaver.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, because I'm
You're welcome.
there. Now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Just moving on. You saw my WGU screensaver. Okay, so when you're talking about the teaks, this is science grade 3. Under A, every time you look at a grade level, you'll always in a content area, you'll have an introduction, A. And that is just kind of an overview. Those are not the teaks that you're going to be teaching specifically. Those are the general overall concepts that you'll be teaching. When you want to find a teak, you go down to knowledge and skills. Okay, so knowledge and skills are these little specific A, B, C, all these letters under here. The number is you can think of that as your heading. So under 3rd grade, knowledge and skills, number 3 is scientific investigation and reasoning. And they're going to use critical thinking. Now, how are they going to do that? Underneath are the specific things that they are going to do. Connect grade level appropriate science concepts with the history of science, for example, or analyze and critique scientific explanations using logical reasoning. So if you just remember, this is like an outline. A are your general ideas, and then B is your actual knowledge and skills. Now this is, oh, that's 4th grade actually. Here's 3rd grade. If I go to 3rd grade, scientific, number 3 is going to be the same, scientific investigation and reasoning. That's 3rd grade. 4th grade, number 3, same thing, scientific investigation and reasoning. I bet if I go to grade 2, what do you think number 3 is going to be? Scientific investigation and reasoning. So your teaks are aligned by number and by section. If you ever want to know, say you're teaching 2nd grade and your kids are like, oh, wait a minute, we're talking about safe practices and safety standards, and they're acting like they haven't heard this before. Wait a minute, is this the first time that they've heard it? Let me think about this. You can actually go up to 1st grade 1A and see what the correlation is. 1st grade 1A, yep, guess what? They had safe and healthy practices in 1st grade. They had to identify, discuss, and demonstrate. They had to wear safety goggles. This is all in 1st grade. In 2nd grade, let's see, identify, describe, and demonstrate. It's pretty much the same. So I know that they've been exposed, they should have been exposed to these vocabulary terms. So you can do that with any teak. You can go before and after on the grade level and see if there's something that corresponds that they should have learned. So when I go for my prerequisite skills right here, I can go and see for 2nd grade if there's something that correlates to represent the natural world, sun, moon, and earth. So the title, let me go back up to the top. The title is Moon, whoops. Moon phases, because the story goes through different moon phases. My theme, It's going to be moon. Topic is the same thing because I'm not creative. The title of my story. Oh, moon. And see, I had, and my teak is what I found already. 3rd grade, represent the natural world. Now my teak is different from my objective. My objective is what I want the kids to specifically do. And I want them to be able to name the moon phases. So I'm going to have them do one of these activities. Can you see that? Yum, yum. That's my activity. My objective is I want them to be able to label the phases of the moon. Having trouble. How do you spell label? Okay. I went and found a STAR objective. Even if you're doing 1st grade or 2nd grade kindergarten lessons, you need to find a STAR objective, and you would find it for 3rd grade or even 4th grade maybe. The way you can find those STAR objectives is going to the syllabus. And in the syllabus, there are these links, and you can click. I just clicked on the reading one. It got me here. And I just read, make sure you're reading the 2017 ones, not the 2009. We want to have the updated STAR expectations. And I read and I read and I read and I read and I thought, oh, well, it could be all of these, but what do I specifically want to focus on for my lesson? And I found this one: explain the author's use of print and graphic features to achieve specific purposes. Remember how I showed you how that book folded out and made the page bigger? So I'm going to have the kids explain why. One of my questions in my read aloud is going to be, why did the author do this? Why did the author make the pages come apart? So that's my STAR teak that I found. And I copied it right here. Prerequisite skills. Remember I said I could go to the teak 2nd grade and find out what the prerequisite skill would be for this 3rd grade teak. Let's see. I actually don't think there is one. Natural sources, factors in the environment, physical changes, because they don't do moon phases specifically in 2nd grade. I could just say students should be able to communicate their observations. They should be able to observe things. They should be able to ask questions about objects. So there's some general ones in there. There's not a specific one. So I might say, okay, my attention getter and my focus will be the book, but it's also going to be those Oreos. I'm going to show them what they're going to do. And then in the connections, if you look at the syllabus, where did the syllabus go? There it is. It gives you some ideas of what kind of connections you can make. I don't know if you can see this, but in that lesson plan, page 5, it says, describe how the teacher will make one of the following connections to the objective taught: past or future learning, community, culture, and interests. So how can I make a connection with the moon phases and with my story, past or future learning, the community, culture, interests? Well, I could go back to my book and say, okay, well, the little boy was interested in the moon and she really wanted to touch it and she wanted to play with it. So I could ask the students, what kind of things do you like to play with? Would you want to play with the moon? Is it reasonable to play with the moon? And maybe I could bring it into future learning, something about in 4th grade, you'll learn more about the planets. So I'm going to relate it to the future, what they're going to learn in the future. So that's all you need to do for the your template for the first part. I haven't done complete sentences. I haven't really fleshed out exactly the steps that I'm going to go through with the students. You just need to put a general idea together about what you think you're going to be working on. You know, it doesn't have content area in there. That's interesting. I'm sure it was on there. Maybe I just skipped it. So that would be science. All right. Any questions about that? And that'll be due, I think it's supposed to be due today, but I'll have it due towards the end of the week. So you can turn that in and I can get you some feedback on it. Once you start working on the lesson plan, that's when you'll start working out if it's going to be large group or small group, what parts of your, what type of instruction you'll be using, and how you'll get the kids to transition through each topic. So the part 2, you're going to actually list all your materials, like I would say Oreos, spoons, paper plates, pencils. And part 2 is going to be more of the procedure and the actual activity of what you're going to have. So it'll be the more complete lesson plan. All right. Any questions about that? We're a little bit behind. I was supposed to introduce the classroom design and showcase today, but I just introduced the planning with literature. You can see on the syllabus, I'm like a week behind. So
and those are chapter 3 or 4, right?
Chapter 3 and 4 is, no, chapter 3 and 4 is small group and large group learning. Yeah, the review that I did in the beginning. And then you also you should have watched the video about why plan.
Yeah.
That little funky looking guy who's really.
Yeah, he was just sitting there kind of. I thought he was like a more of a businessman more than a teacher.
Yeah, I like the way he really puts out why you should plan. So as I was going through that lesson and typing up the lesson plan, it brings to mind some things that he said. Why plan? So you want to plan to make sure that you're organized. You want to plan to make sure you know exactly the steps, what you're supposed to say. Right now, I'm working with, I think I've told you, 8 student teachers, and they have to write like a 3-page lesson plan for their first 5 lessons that they teach. And that's not realistic once you've been teaching 4, 5, 6 years. You've got it in your head what really kind of the basics of what you should do, but you should still plan so that you make sure that you don't forget anything and make sure that you have all your materials ready and all of your ideas ready, all your technology, and also so you can plan for things that might happen. For example, with this Oreo lesson, I might know that somebody's allergic to chocolate. And so if I plan, I can have an alternate assignment ready for that person. Maybe use the vanilla Oreos or have them use crackers. I may know that there's a video of Papa Get the Moon for Me that I can have one of my, an ESL student listen to a couple of times, or I might know that there's a Spanish translation for it. So getting all those things together is what helps you plan. And so that's one of the things that guy talked about with the basics of planning. And like I said, even if you've been teaching 5, 6, 10 years, you really should jot down things that you're going to need. I tell this story in all of my classes, and then we'll be about done for the day, maybe about 10 more minutes. But when I was about 9 months pregnant, it was January, and my baby was due on January 25th. I thought it was going to be really fun for my pre-K students to make footprints like snow. And we were going to read The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats. And I was going to have the kids put their feet in a pan of white paint. And they were going to walk across this black paper to make it look like little footprints, like the footprints in the snow for the story, The Snowy Day with Ezra Jack Keats. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so cool. And, the parents are going to come for open house and be like, oh, Miss Davis was so fun. She had the kids, and this paint is going to be cold. And I got all the stuff together. And like I said, I'm like 9 months pregnant. I set up a chair and I set up the paper on the ground, and the first kid took off his shoes and socks, sat on the chair, put his feet in the paint. And I just went, oh crap. I had to basically hold the kids walking across the paper so that they didn't fall. And then when they got to the end of the paper, here was the end of the paper. And the sink was across the room. So they had paint on their feet. I had to pick up this kid, carry him over to the sink, put his feet in the sink. And I'm like, 4-year-old, they can clean their feet off. No, I had to physically wash this kid's feet. And I'm thinking, I can't do this with 8 other kids. I had a really small class. But all the other kids were standing around. They were so excited. They were supposed to be playing at centers and doing something else, but they were watching. I had to do that 8 times. And there were some very large kindergartners, pre-K students in my class. So I didn't plan very well. If I would have planned, I would have probably had baby wipes for them to use, or I would have put the paper closer to the sink, or I would have planned it on the day that my high school aide was there. Because she was like a senior in high school, young, woo, and she could have picked them up and taken them over there. So don't be like me and get stuck with paint covered feet in your room, not knowing what to do. So when I tell that story, it brings back a lot of memories, and it makes me realize that, yes, we must put our plans in writing. We need to work through what could happen, What hopefully won't happen, you know, there might be a fire drill, there might be, you know, parent visitor or something like that that you can't plan on, but you can
So
plan.
do you plan every night, or is it at the beginning and the end of the week?
So usually when you're teaching, you do plan with your group. You'll plan with your teammates, and you'll plan, you'll plan every week. Like maybe you'll all sit down on Thursdays at your planning time and plan for the next week. And then that'll give you a couple of days for this teacher to get the paper bags, and this teacher to get the books ready, and this teacher to get, you know, find the movie that you're going to show, so that you have time to get all your materials together. Generally, I mean, I've planned when this same baby that I had in January 25th, I planned 6 weeks of lessons for my substitute. And that took me from about November till, you know, the beginning of January to actually sit down and, when I had time, plan out every single week and get all of the materials together. So you usually don't do that. That's just unrealistic to plan for so long. I mean, I had Christmas break and stuff like that, so it worked out for me. But usually you're going to plan a week in advance, and then be flexible with that week. If you don't get to something on Monday, you know, pick it up again on Tuesday. I was supposed to observe one of my 6th grade student teachers couple of weeks ago, and he had submitted his lesson to me that he was going to teach. And then on this particular Monday, and on Friday night, he called me and he said, I didn't finish my lesson on Friday, so I can't teach that lesson on Monday. And I said, that's great. I'm glad you know that, you know, that you need to finish your lesson that you didn't finish on Friday, and you can move, you know, kind of be flexible and move into Tuesday. So being flexible, but also, you know, planning ahead and having everything ready is going to help your ebb and your flow. And then having teammates that will help you plan also. So like if we were a whole team of 2nd grade teachers, you know, I might have, you know, 3 of you might be responsible for science and some for social studies. And then we would share our lesson plans and maybe tweak them the way that we want to actually teach them. Like somebody might say, well, we're going to read, you know, a different book. And I'd say, well, no, I want to read this book, but it's basically the same teak and the same activity and the same objective. So, so planning is important. And sometimes you'll plan an hour, 2 hours for a 15-minute lesson. And sometimes you'll plan, you know, 30 minutes for a 2-hour lesson. It just depends on how in depth you're going and how many.
Do they give you a book to like go through it? Like,
yes.
Okay.
The scope and sequence is usually done for you when you go into a classroom.
You just gotta
yeah.
Like, so how you gonna present it? How you gonna bring the objective to them?
You might have generally, say, like when I would go into a school for kindergarten, we would sit down in the summer, the 6 kindergarten teachers, and look at our textbooks and look at our materials and say, okay, you know, in September, we're going to do this, this, and this, and math is this and this, and October, we're going to do this, this, and this, November, this, and this, and make sure, and then we check off the teaks and make sure that we've taught all the teaks. And then we say, okay, oh, we forgot to teach this, let's put it in November. That's pretty in-depth. Most schools, you know, a lot of schools, you don't have to do that. That's already done for you, that planning of scope and sequence. Usually the district will tell you already what you're going to teach each week, and they'll have a guide for you. When I taught pre-K, when it was really pretty new in Texas, oh my gosh, I'm that old. I had to develop my own curriculum, my own teaching materials, everything, and look at the teaks and make sure that I was teaching them all throughout the year. It wasn't done for me at all. But that's a very not common. I wouldn't say rare, it's not common. You're generally going to have, like I said, that scope and sequence done for you by the higher level district curriculum developers, especially in a large district like Klein or Spring or HISD. In fact, I know HISD has like what you should do each day every week already planned for you. You can add in, you know, you may want to do a Kahoot, or you may want to read this story. You can add in some of your own ideas, but usually it's done for you. The reason, so you're probably thinking, okay, well, Dr. Primary, why do I have to make this lesson? The reason that we make you, the reason that we make you in college do these lessons is so that you can understand how the progression goes, and so that you can understand what goes into actually teaching a lesson. Because if you just gave me a bunch of lessons in a book, I would be so confused and I wouldn't know, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? So in college, and while you're learning, we teach you how a lesson is put together so that you have an understanding of the why you're doing what you're doing. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah, because eventually you may have to plan, you know, your own.
So, and I've heard different teachers say different things, but like, how long are you actually like doing talking throughout the day, like throughout the classroom? Like, are you talking all day? Is it instruction all day? Or because I've heard some teachers say, well, you really don't have to talk that much, you know, and
it really depends on the grade level and the topic. I would say kindergarten teachers probably talk the most. Because you have to be constantly giving directions and guiding, and every lesson is maybe like 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And so the break you get would be like when the kids are in centers, but even when the kids are in centers, you're going to have a small group teaching them, you know, guided reading or whatever, guided math. So I would say kindergarten teachers probably talk the most. But then again, I've been in a high school chemistry class where he talked the entire time, all day, every day, and then lost his voice, you know? So, but I feel like he also should have had the kids talking a lot more, because if you're constantly lecturing and talking, then older kids aren't going to get it. You know, you can have, hey, Tommy, come up and explain this problem for everybody a little bit more. So kind of those mid-grade, second, third, fourth, they're going to be working together and working in groups, and you're not going to do as much talking. You'll be giving them that large group instruction and the guidance and the procedures, and then sending them to do whatever they're supposed to do. Yeah, so if you have a lot of small groups, obviously you're going to be talking a lot more. But or some heavy content too.
Yes. I mean, so right now, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to like, am I distracting? I'm not trying to distract.
No, this is a good conversation.
So right now, I'm still kind of like, I guess you could say, in the early phase of like the becoming a teacher or the education process. So I haven't really, I mean, the only class that I can say that I've really learned is about, like, especially with teaching, is math. And that's just because they showed us how to, you know, break down everything and how to teach it. So when should I be learning, like, okay, when should I be learning what I'm going to teach in the classroom? When should I be learning, you know, like, okay, I need to keep these notes so that when I do enter the classroom or whatever, I can be ready to remember it. Because I mean, there's a lot of information that we're learning over these like next 3 or 4 years. So I mean, what should I keep? What should I like?
That's a great question. And I can tell you from personal experience, I student taught in kindergarten and 4th grade, and I thought I would never teach 4th grade because I just did not enjoy it when I student taught. And I was so glad that I kept everything from student teaching and from the lessons that I had developed, because I eventually did go and teach ESL and had fourth graders. And I was like, oh, well, guess what? I have this lesson. I have these materials. I have these ideas. And whatever I made in college, I'm in fact, I'm trying to think, I don't have it with me, but there were things that I made in college and lessons, especially the very hungry caterpillar things that I did. I used like the first day. And I was glad that I had them, and a lot of like the bulletin boards and the centers that I made. I was really glad that I had those too to use. So I would say keep everything. This book is really nice too, because in the at the end of every chapter, towards the back, there are lessons. There's at the back of every chapter.
Okay.
So you know, if you're stuck on something, you can look this up and see, oh, look, here's some questions, here's some activity lessons that I could find and adapt them for different grade levels. So student teaching is where you're really going to learn the pacing for the day, what exactly you're going to teach in that grade level.
But school, the school process is learning, you know, the actual like formulas, vocabulary, all of that stuff to know how to okay.
Yeah, the school, because when you take your exit test, they're going to ask you what's developmentally appropriate, what would you do for a group activity, what would you do for a small group activity, and they're going to use the vocabulary like I use, like content area, core curriculum. They're going to use all of those kind of vocabulary words, and you're expected to know those.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Well, let me see what you turn in for your outline. Excuse me. And I'll give you some feedback and we'll kind of go from there. And I'll see you probably, I don't have my calendar, either the 21st or the 28th. Probably the 21st. Again, so I can start showing you the classroom design and showcase. I have to collect some things so I can make an example for that showcase. I actually had some students turn in some stuff this week from another class that was really cool with the showcase. So I'll show you some of those. All right. Y'all have a good rest of your day. I'll hang on for a little bit if anyone has any questions they want to stay after, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. And look on Blackboard for the Dropbox and for that assignment, and a discussion for next week too. Sorry, I needed to say that.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.